As I said, as we were coming back from the intermission, I am a librarian. I deal in the business of information, which means I ask a lot of questions. I've always been sort of that person where, why? No, but why? But how does that really work, right? And not always accepting the answer at face value. I have been known to say, I'm not saying that you're lying, but you're not telling me the truth, right? I think Najima said, I have faith. I had faith, but I had questions. I can relate to that, and I know some of you can too. I'd like to welcome our last storyteller, Najima, to the stage.
I just said if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it tits out. So I am not going to tell you the worst things that ever happened to me. I'm sorry. I don't know any of you, and I don't know if I even like you. My life's not really a secret. It's pretty out there. You could probably find out a lot of stuff about me, including see videos of my tits. And believe me, I've been through a lot of shit because I'm from this town, from this, excuse my language, cracker-ass town. I was born here. I was raised here by my parents. And my grandparents live here. My son lives here. This is where I'm from. And like the desert, I'm prickly as fuck. And I wouldn't say I have trust issues at all. I just think that there's folly in trusting people before you know them. So you don't get to know any of my fucking secrets. But what you do get to know is some shit that's still apparently scandalous because my mom won't come and hear me talk about it. I'm the opposite of other people. I grew up idolizing my mom because she was tall and young and beautiful and smart. And she talked to me like I was an intelligent person, which I really felt I was. From a very early age, I was very frustrated with being a child. And in fact hated it, and not for lots of reasons, but I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy it. I like not being a child. I like being an adult. And one of those things that I had problems with as a child was the concept of God. Like, it was fine when it was like the baby Bible version of God. Those stories are, I don't know, as a kid I liked them. I've always liked archetypes, you know? So then as you got older and the concepts got more complicated, I would start to ask questions that I didn't think were, they weren't meant to stir the boat, you know, or rock the boat, but they did. They did. They caused me trouble all the time. One of my earliest memories is being escorted out of children's church. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I asked, or why what I said was caused problems. It was just me and one other little girl. But the lady said she was glad her child never asked questions like that. And I kept bumping up against that, right? When I would ask questions, when I would bump up against something that didn't make sense to me. But for a lot of Black people, especially like my grandmother and my mom, in a more Southern tradition, church is kind of the center of life, you know, culturally, and a huge part of their identity. And I know that for my mom, it feels like me saying I'm an atheist is me saying she didn't raise me right. But she did. She did. I think she did. Although I am standing here with my tits out in the middle of the stage. She raised me to be a bold person. So I remember also when I was maybe around 8 or 9, the movie Empire of the Sun had come out, and Christian Bale was the star of it, and he said in it that he was an atheist. That was an interesting word to me. I had never heard that word before. I had an encyclopedia. This was a long time ago. Because my parents really loved me. They did. They did. I was very precious to them, and they got me an encyclopedia set. It was not a Britannica. but it was still good. And it had a section that defined what atheism is. So then I started saying, I'm an atheist. And I said it, and my dad said, shut up, no, you're not. And then he added, that's just something you heard on TV. Which was true. So I said, I guess he's got my number, right? And so I redoubled my efforts, because apparently I wasn't an atheist. It's only looking back at it now that I realized that was the first time that I found a word that described the feeling I had, right? All those years ago, even as a small child. I'm not, I feel like people think all atheists are like very virulent atheists, like I'm just so full of anger, and maybe I'm angry at a lot of stuff. But not necessarily at the concept of faith. I understand we're all just trying to make it through this world. It's a complicated place. It's a hard place. If you got to believe in God, go ahead. Just, don't leave passive aggressive messages on the community board. John 2:12 or whatever. I don't, because for a long time I would say I was agnostic, even though I knew it wasn't true, because it was easier. It was easier for my mom. It was easier for me to pretend a lot of things. It wasn't just religion. It wasn't just my atheism. I tried a lot of things, I went to school. I voted Democrat. I doorbell rang for the DNC in the summer for John fucking Kerry. because I was a believer. I believed in all this shit. I believed in this stuff. And even though I didn't really believe it, I felt like I should believe it. So I just redoubled my efforts. I've always been a hard worker. So if my dad said that I was in fact not an atheist, then apparently I wasn't an atheist. And if I was living this life, I was supposed to be married and have children and raise them to be decent human beings, and then they were supposed to live some middle-class dream and go upwards, maybe be small business owners, maybe I'd marry a black engineer, I don't know, someone who owned some property, and then we would move upwards and we would just keep pushing forward to this dream, this American fucking dream. But it was a lie. I don't know if you know this story, but it turns out that's just a fucking lie. You guys are clapping like you're not profiting from it. It's a fucking lie, but you know, we're all profiting from it. Even me at the bottom of the chain. Even I'm profiting from it. When it all falls, nobody will give a fuck that I voted the right way. They'll just care that for generations we took so much and left so little. And I'm guilty of that, just like everyone else here. And there's no God that cares. That part was hard. It's a bitter pill. The universe is endless and infinite. So I'll leave a tiny bit of space for maybe a small piece of agnosticism right at the very end of me, like maybe 0.0%. Because how can I see anything more than the sliver of existence I'm exposed to? But there's nothing that solves injustice except time and generations of blood and sacrifice and injustice and inhumanity and fighting and fighting and fighting. I believe in that. I don't believe in God, but I believe in the great-grandfather who ran away from the plantation so that he could get a gun and start fighting for the Yankees. I believe in the ancestor whose slave narrative I found when I was helping my son with a school project. Who told the story of how her master set her free, but told her she couldn't have her baby, how she hid in the woods until the day they weren't watching, and she took her baby with her. I believe in those stories. And I believe that all those people ever had was religion and songs and hope. I believe in them. And what I would tell them as me on this end, all those generations, is that we need to burn this motherfucker to the ground. And I mean that as a pragmatist, as a former Democrat. Generations of blood. I'm gonna I said I wouldn't end with a song, but I'm gonna. This is a song all about faith. And when I sing it, I don't think about God. I think about all the women who sang it before me. Why should I be discouraged? Why should dark shadows come? Why should my heart be heavy and long for heavenly home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend indeed. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. This is my favorite part. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. Yeah, his eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Thank you.